So it's my pleasure to welcome all of you. I'm Father Innocent Maganya of the Congregation of the Missionaries of Africa. I'm the director of the Institute for Interreligious Dialogue and Islamic Studies at Tangaza University College. I would like to welcome and greet Dr. Shomali from England. Welcome, Dr. Shomali. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Welcome, Dr. Shomali. This global event has been organized by 4 institutions together. So we have the Global Ministry University in California, with a group which will be speaking from California and from New York, represented by Professor Gerald Grutzen. Then we have the State University Kalijaga, Yogyakarta in Indonesia. Forgive me if I do not pronounce well. Then we have Umma University in Kajiado County here in Kenya, Harmony Institute, Tangaza University College, and we are being also supported and sponsored by Agia Mondo, which is a German organization. As you well know, this initiative the journey started with the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar University and His Holiness Pope Francis when they met in Abu Dhabi in 2019, and they issued a document on human fraternity. And in 2020, His Holiness Pope Francis issued the encyclical letter Fratelli Tutti. So we are being inspired by these great leaders, religious leaders, and would like to create a global movement of solidarity. This is the purpose of this these 3 days conference. And I would like to thank you for having generously accepted our invitation as you honor us on this first day with your opening remarks. Now I will start with a prayer to God, the Creator, inspired by Fratelli Tutti. Then I will ask the chair of the Commission for Interreligious Dialogue and Ecumenism, His Lordship, Bishop Lago, to address this assembly. So let us recollect ourselves for a few seconds and pray to the Almighty God that He may bless these days of conferences, and that whatever we do may be to the benefit of all humanity.
Amen.
Let us pray. Lord, Father of our human family, you created all human beings equal in dignity. Pour forth into our hearts a fraternal spirit and inspire in us a dream of renewed encounter, dialogue, justice, and peace. Move us to create healthier societies and a more dignified world, a world without hunger, poverty, violence, and war. May our hearts be open to all the peoples and nations of the earth. May we recognize the goodness and beauty that we have sown in each of us, and thus forge bonds of unity, common projects, and shared dreams. We make our prayer in the name of God, the Creator of universe and Father of all. Amen. Allow me now to introduce His Lordship, Bishop Lago, the chair of the Commission for Interreligious Dialogue and Ecumenism at the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops of Kenya. Reverend Wilbert Lago is a Catholic Bishop of Malindi in Kenya from 19th of March, 2021. He graduated with a licentiate in Arabic and Islamic Studies in the Pontifical Institute of Arabic and Islamic Studies at Pisa in Rome in 1998. Bishop Lago has served as a consultant for Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue in Rome and a consultant for DAN Mission, a Lutheran development agency, during his research project entitled A Pilot Study on the Methodological Approaches and Tools for Measuring Change and the Results of Working with Religion and Religious Actors for Peace and Reconciliation in East Africa. In the height of violent extremism in Kenya in 2018, he was among the facilitators in training Kenya Defense Force chaplains on their role in preventing violent extremism in their respective formations. He is a former chairperson of Coast Interfaith Council of Clerics in Mombasa, and currently he is the chairperson of the Commission for Interreligious Dialogue and Ecumenism in Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops. We are honored to have you in our midst, Your Lordship. Now I invite you to address the conference. Welcome. You can unmute yourself, Your Lordship. Unmute yourself, Your Lordship, please.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, please, we can hear you.
Yes, so good afternoon, good morning, all of you. On behalf of the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, I would like to thank the organizers of this international and interreligious conference. This is the first time we are having such a conference, to the best of my knowledge, and therefore I consider it a great milestone in the process of developing this movement towards universal brotherhood as far as the continent and also Kenya is concerned. As you know, the context of Africa can be defined as a continent which is multicultural and multi-religious. And we have had our own shares of conflicts, many times based on identity conflicts and resource-based conflicts. So the Fratelli Tutti document is a very strong inspiration to a continent and to a nation that is still struggling to develop and to create nationalhood among a people who belong to the same state, but different cultures and different religions. We, however, have a good model which we can propose to the rest of the world, that in Africa, it's very common to have a family where you have members from different religions and who live as a family and who support each other without referring to their religious identities. This is a model of a family which can be replicated at bigger cycles, either at national, regional, or international levels. And to that extent, Africa is not just a continent of conflicts, but also a continent that has a practical model of how Fratelli Tutti is being lived in the family circles and beyond. Some of the inspirations we get from Fratelli Tutti is when the pontiff invites us to go outside the self in order to gain fuller existence. I think this is a timely call, especially at a time when there's so much, there are so many forces pushing nations and communities to look inward and exclude others. The example of immigrants is just one among many examples. And that's why the call to look outside the self is a very timely call. When the pontiff in his letter, Fratelli Tutti, talks about a heart open to the whole world. I think that is where we are all aiming at, despite the many obstacles and many walls that we have yet to overcome. And I also believe that religion cannot be separated from culture, and where we have got a nation or region or continent fragmented along cultural or religious lines, Fratelli Tutti is one of those pillars that can help us or give us a roadmap towards building unity in diversity within a continent. And that's why I consider this conference very timely. And I think the main challenge is how to translate this document at the level of the communities, because at the level of leadership, we can say we are quite advanced in terms of building networks and relations. It is followers of different religions in the community, at the community level, where we still have a long way to go, where the imam or the pastor who are neighbors, whose places of worship are neighbors, may not have begun to dialogue themselves. And I think that is the biggest challenge and where we need to focus our attention. Those are the few remarks I'd like to share. Otherwise, I welcome you all in this conference, and I'd like to wish you all the best in case I mute myself, because I'm at the airport traveling back to Malindi at 5:25 today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Lordship, for the time you have given us, and knowing that you are at the airport traveling back to Malindi. Allow me now to invite Professor David Wangombe, who is the Vice Chancellor Designate of Tangaza University College. Prof. David Wangombe has been a Dean of School of Management and Commerce at Strathmore University for 10 years. He has also been the Managing Director of Strathmore Research and Consultancy Company for 5 years. He has lectured accounting and finance courses both at university and tertiary levels for over 20 years. Professor Wangombe has been a consultant with several organizations, including Strathmore Business School, University of California, Los Angeles, in training program, Adam Smith International and Partnership for African Social and Governance Research. As a consultant, he has helped solve managerial issues with several organizations, both in public and private sector. He has trained corporate financial oversight to board of directors and senior managers of many companies in East Africa. Professor Wangombe has been a facilitator and mentor in leadership training for deans and vice chancellors under the Leadership Development Program of PASGR. He has been a facilitator and mentor for faculty development program in case teaching and writing program under the Ministry of Industrialization. So we are glad to have our Vice Chancellor, and would like to invite him now to address and welcome all our guests. Welcome, Professor David Wangombe.
Thank you very much, Father Innocent, for the kind introduction. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, being present here in this conference. My Lord Bishop Wilbert Laho, today I have been your guest for the last 2 days, training your clergy on sustainability. And here you are flying back to Malindi, and I'm here flying back to Nairobi. And the beauty of technology, we are here welcoming people in this conference. Thank you so much, my Lord Bishop. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor and pleasure on behalf of Tangaza University College to welcome you to this international conference on Fratelli Tutti co-organized by the Tangaza Institute for Interreligious Dialogue and Islamic Studies in partnership with the Global Ministries Universities in California, the State Islamic University Sunan in Indonesia, Harmony Institute in Nairobi, and my dear friend, Umma University in Kajiado County, Kenya. We are proud and privileged to welcome everyone to the conference in this unique and unusual setting due to the current situation of the pandemic. Tangaza is a center of Catholic theological and ministerial education in the context of the church in Africa. Students and lecturers come from over 50 countries, around 100 congregations, and a diverse set of religious formation. It is for this reason we found ourselves as a rich center for interreligious dialogue, multicultural dialogue as well. It's a community of learning and holistic formation based on gospel values through academic excellence in a multicultural and vibrant context. I welcome my colleagues, Vice Chancellor from Global Ministries University, Umma University, the State Islamic University in Indonesia, and the Director of Harmony Institute, who have supported this initiative. Thank you so much for working together with us in this journey of interreligious dialogue. I welcome Monsignor Lucio Sembaro, the Secretary of the Pontifical Council of Interreligious Dialogue. We appreciate always the word of encouragement from Cardinal Ayuso, Cardinal Prefect of the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue. I welcome His Excellency, Mr. Yogyakarta Umar, Minister of Religious Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. I recognize in a special way the presence of His Excellency, Dr. Sultan Faisal, the Secretary General of the Council of Imams. We appreciate the presence of Dr. Azhar Karam, Secretary General of Religious for Peace International. We also appreciate the presence of the Somali Director of the International Institute of Islamic Studies, with whom we have a very close collaboration. We have together organized summer school in Christian-Muslim relations. We appreciate the presence of Dr. Samuel Kobia, the Chair of the National Integration and Cohesion Commission of the Republic of Kenya. The NICC has always supported our Institute for Interreligious Dialogue and Islamic Studies, and we appreciate the work we are doing with you, sir, in bringing national integration and cohesion. We are looking forward to working together in building bridges amongst the Kenyan socio-political, religious, and ethnic divide. It is our honor to welcome Mr. Suvan, the Deputy Chief Gathi of Kenya. Thank you very much, sir. We have the support of, as we have mentioned, His Lordship, Lago Bishop of Malindi and Chair of the Kenya Conference of Catholic Commission for Interreligious Dialogue and Ecumenism, who is hosting me today and the last 2 days in developing leadership amongst our clergy. When Pope Francis met with Ahmed Al-Tayeb, the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, and signed a historic declaration of basic Christian on human fraternity, it was a clear indicator that the building bridges for human solidarity is possible, is necessary, and is here to stay. Both of them agreed. The world would either build the future together or there will be no future. It is our responsibility, ladies and gentlemen, to walk this talk. They added, the time has come for religious to actively exert themselves with courage and audacity and without pretense to help the human family deepen the capacity and peaceful coexistence, cultivate the vision of hope and build concrete paths of peace and human solidarity. Ladies and gentlemen, the spirit of Fratelli Tutti is global. Its appeal to solidarity is universal. Hence, we try to look at this landmark document from different perspectives to treat it with the holistic analysis it deserves. Pope Francis reminded everyone of the purpose of global solidarity and its necessity for answering the greatest questions of our time today. Global issues require global solutions, regardless of our individual backgrounds, our ethnicity, our race, our color, inclusivity and inequality, peace and hate speech, poverty and spirituality, climate change and solidarity, one issue after the other, were all covered by Pope Francis in the Fratelli Tutti. We look forward to a truly global discussion about this excellent document, which will give food for thought for everyone who looks to make a positive impact in this world. My good friends, Tangaza University College wants to contribute to this impact as spelled out in our motto, teaching minds, touching hearts, and transforming lives. To this end, here at Tangaza, the Institute for Interreligious Dialogue and Islamic Studies is serving as a hub for interreligious dialogue in Kenya, Africa, and beyond. The Institute is based on the partnership between the Catholic Congregation of Missionaries of Africa and Agia Mundu from Germany. The Missionaries of Africa have a long experience in Africa and dialogue between Christians and Muslims. Tangaza University College appreciates the number of partnerships they have created, both at national and international level. We appreciate this conference as one of our tools and endeavors to achieve our mission. As Tangaza administration, we fully support this initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to this conference. Welcome to Tangaza University College, and may God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor David Wangombe, the Vice Chancellor of Tangaza University, for these nice words of welcome. Now I would like to invite Professor Al Makin, Director of the State University Kalijaga, Yogyakarta in Indonesia. Professor Al Makin holds a PhD from the University of Heidelberg in Germany, an MA from the Institute of Islamic Studies at McGill University, Montreal in Canada, and a BA at State Institute of Islamic Studies, Yogyakarta in Indonesia. What I would like also to say in a special way, the University of Yogyakarta is going to honor in a special way the Grand Imam Al-Tayyib of Al-Azhar University and Pope Francis for the journey they have started together and which we are following. So, Professor Al Makin, you are welcome. You can unmute yourself, Professor Al Makin.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Father Innocent. Thank you for this excellent opportunity. This is indeed a great conference on Fratelli Tutti, Ukhuwah Insaniyah, building bridges for human solidarity, in which we scholars and religious readers, researchers and observers gather in this occasion with intention of good communication, although via Zoom meeting, which is more affordable without purchasing tickets, to share our research and insight of the world. We should be grateful to God still grant us life, to breathe every day, to live and to love, to see the world and to participate in life, to strengthen peace of the world. I, as the rector, and on behalf of State Islamic University, Sunan Kalijaga, Yogyakarta, Indonesia, welcome all speakers, participants, and thankful for the committee in making this conference to happen. I would like to thank the hosts of this conference, Tangaza University College, Umma University, Harmony University, and Global Ministry University. Professor David Wangombe, Professor Frederick Iraqi, Dr. Idil Farah, Monsignor Lucio Sembrano, Professor Kamaruddin Amin from the Ministry of Religious Affairs of Indonesia, Dr. Azza Karam, Reverend Dr. Samuel Kobia, Ms. Alisa Wahid, Dr. Muhammad Ali Shomali, Reverend Dr. Patrick Ryan, Sheikh Hassan Sukyan, and Bishop Williport Lago. In this opportunity, allow me to highlight and raise attention the importance of the documents signed by His Holiness Pope Francis and Grand Sheikh Al-Azhar Ahmad Thayyib on fraternity of mankind in 2019. The document calls upon us to strengthen our relation among human beings, regardless of faith, ethnicity, nationality, and other tradition. We are born without our consent to a certain culture, country, and from parents with particular faith. This is not our free choice, unfortunately. We cannot choose our parent, our country, our culture, and our tradition. But we are part of them. They choose us. So our neighbors, our friends who are born in different countries, tradition, and culture, we should accept them as they are. We are different. We are unique in the way in which we understand this world and the way we are raised. The document of fraternity signed by His Holiness Pope Francis and Grand Sheikh Al-Azhar strengthen our effort to bridge us in East and West, in Asia, Europe, Australia, Africa, regardless our history tainted by conflicts and wars. We are seeking for peace. The documents in Indonesia particularly deserve our attention because Indonesia is so diverse in cultures and tradition and faith. Officially, Indonesian government acknowledges 6 religions officially: Islam, Catholicism, Protestantism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Confucianism. It is worth noting that Confucianism is regarded as a philosophy in China, but in Indonesia, since the government of Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono acknowledges as religion. Islam in Indonesia, notwithstanding majority religion, has unique features and characteristics. The major 2 Sunni organizations, Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah, give unique interpretations with Indonesian local culture and traditions. Indonesia consists of 17,000 islands. Imagine each island offers different interpretation of Islam mixed with local cultures and unique traditions. The relation of Islam and other religions also deserve our attention. Indonesia has indeed a long history of this. In our history, there are some unique relation between Mahayana Buddhism and Hinduism Shivaism, as seen in the relief of many Hindu and Buddhist temples, such as Prambanan and Borobudur. Islam came later and added the richness of this religiosity, spirituality, and religions in Indonesia. Indonesian Islam accommodates old Hinduism and Buddhism wisdom in tradition and architecture. The shape of old mosques in Central Java and many older mosques in Sumatra, Sulawesi, and other islands of Indonesia follow the patterns of local culture of Hindu temples, Buddhist vihara, and other unique architecture. It is worth noting that Hindu tales of Mahabharata and Ramayana remain alive in Muslim traditions in Indonesia. We dance, we sing, we paint with Hindu and Buddhist motif. We speak Malay and Javanese language related to Old Sanskrit. After the independence of Indonesia, we have many thinkers who try to give us formula and recipe for harmony among different religions. Father Triarkara, Catholic priest, highlight that Indonesia with different religion the government should be neutral in protecting and guarantee different faiths and freedom of religions. Mukti Ali, a former Minister of Religious Affairs of Indonesia, also professor at our university, Sunan Kalijaga, boldly states that we cannot go to paradise alone, only with our own group or our own faction. But we should rather go to paradise with other religions, or put in different way with our friends, our neighbors embracing different faiths. Mukti Ali proposes three kinds of harmony among different religions, religion and the state, and among followers of the same religion but different schools, groups, or sects. Another Muslim thinker, Nurholis Majid, proposes that Muslim can be written with capital M, referring to those who believe in Islam in Muslim way. And Muslim can be written with a small m, referring to surrendering to God in other ways, going to different places of worship, saying different mantra or prayers. For Nurholis, the word Muslim stands for all believers in different religions. For Gus Dur or Abdurrahman Wahid, former president of Indonesia, whose daughter luckily among us in this occasion, Ibu Alisa Wahid, put harmony between religions not only in theory, but in practices. He visit churches, vihara, pura, and other places of worship to respect the followers of different religion, particularly during celebration of several holidays. Gus Dur or Abdurrahman Wahid, whose picture is in Ibu Alisa Wahid at the moment, regularly say Happy Easter, Merry Christmas, Happy Vaisak, and other holidays, and asking Muslims to do the same in supporting of other religions in their holidays. It is Gus Dur or Abdurrahman Wahid who proposed Confucianism to be acknowledged by the government of Indonesia. In this respect, we would like to support Amman or Abu Dhabi document signed by both Pope and Grand Sheikh Al-Azhar. Our university, Sunan Kalijaga, also respects human faith with diversity and differences. So we have students from different religions, and we have professors and staff from different traditions. So please support us in our effort, in our humble and modest proposal to give a doctorate honorary degree to both Pope and Grand Sheikh Al-Azhar, perhaps next year. I wish both a great and wise figure accept our modest and humble offer in order to strengthen this effort for the sake of humanity, for the sake of peace in the world, and for the sake of diversity in Indonesia. We would like to carry the torch of this document in peace in Indonesia. Please support us in our effort. And I think Indonesia is a good place to invite both of them, if possible, to accept our proposal. If not possible, perhaps via Zoom or perhaps via representative. But we humbly, with our modest offer, to continue and to carry on and to carry out their missions, which is excellent for humanity. And I would like to thank for everybody in this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Al-Makin, and especially this honor you are giving to Imam Al-Tayyib of the Al-Azhar University in Cairo, and to His Holiness Pope Francis. In the room, we have Monsignor Lucio Sembrano from the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue, and we will request him to bring forward this proposal to His Holiness. And we have also His Excellency Dr. Sultan Faisal, representing the Grand Imam Al-Tayeb. So we will also request to bring forward this proposal at the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar University. Thank you very much. Allow me now to invite Professor Gruzen from the Global Ministry University in California. Dr. Gerald Gruzen earned the Master of Theology and Master of Divinity graduate degrees from Maryknoll Seminary in New York, and Master of Arts and PhD degrees in the History of Christianity and Islam from Columbia University in New York. Gruzen has served as the president of Global Ministries University, an international and interfaith online graduate program in theology and religious studies since its founding in 2001. Gruzen has taught in philosophy and comparative religion since 2004. Welcome, Professor Gruzen.
Pass some water, please.
Unmute yourself, Prof.
Global Ministries University started after 9/11 as a response to the problems of Islamophobia that were growing so much in the United States. To be able to train people in interreligious dialogue and to be a force in the United States and in the world to bring people together, particularly within the Christian and the Muslim communities, both academically, but also at the grassroots level. We have worked in Kenya with Father Lago, Bishop Lago, in the area of Mombasa for almost 10 years now, working both with clergy and teachers, bringing interfaith dialogue into the grassroots of those communities. We've also worked with the Jesuit community, Santa Clara University, for major interfaith conferences and other Muslim groups and interreligious groups here in California and other parts of the United States. So we believe that it's important to connect the academic work in interreligious dialogue with the grassroots work of training interreligious leaders. So Global Ministries University has pioneered training programs in interreligious dialogue for people at both the academic level and at the grassroots level. We have a relationship with the Parliament of World Religions. We're partners with that organization, which started in 1994. And we have worked with them in Toronto at the last Parliament in 2019. And we published several research studies on interreligious dialogue with our faculty. We offer many courses, almost 60 courses in interreligious dialogue, and we're very happy to be part of this conference. We see Fratelli Tutti as a blueprint for us, much as we did research on Pope Francis in the book that we produced, Pope Francis, Conscience of the World, which basically connects both his work in immigration and in peace work, along with the idea of human fraternity. So we've also worked in California with various colleges to stimulate travel to Egypt. And one of our programs in this conference is on our work with San Jose City College. We actually pioneered the largest American delegation ever to go to Al-Azhar University in 2010, when we met with the leadership of Al-Azhar and with almost 50 American college professors and students. So Global Ministries University is very happy to be here. to be part of this conference. We've worked with, we're partners also with the Institute in Tangaza University for Interreligious Dialogue. And we're hopeful that this conference will be the beginning of a global movement to encourage this type of work, both at the academic and at the grassroots level. We're very pleased to have Father Ryan as part of our team. As I said, the problem of Islamophobia has been a big problem in the United States, and his talk that he'll be giving later in the conference is a wonderful blueprint of how to deal with this question of Islamophobia and other phobias that have come out of the interreligious conflicts that have hurt so much of us in both the United States and in Africa and other parts of the world. So thank you, Father Innocent. Thank you for the whole team. And I want to thank all of the team of our Global Ministries University. We've worked together with the team in Kenya and in Indonesia for almost a year now to put this conference together. It's been a collective, collaborative effort, much like Fratelli Tutti speaks of, that by working together, we can deal with these problems and make an impact for world peace and harmony and understanding. So thank you very much for all of you who have taken part in this program.
Thank you very much, Professor Gerald from the Global Ministries University. Now it's my honor to invite Professor Frederick Iraki, the Chairman Board of Harmony Institute. Frederick Kangete Iraki is a professor of French at USIU and a Knight of the Order of Academic Palms in France. He holds a Master's in Philosophy and a PhD in Cognitive Linguistics French from the University of Geneva, Switzerland, and an MA, a teaching of French as foreign language from the University of Toulouse, France. He collaboratively developed the first ever Kiswahili text-to-speech system for reading Kiswahili. He also designed the first Kiswahili predictive text system for ZIRCOP Canada. He's the founder editor of the Journal of Language, Technology, and Entrepreneurship in Africa. He hosted by African Journals Online since 2008. Iraki is the president of the Kenya Kickboxing Federation, the national chairman of Harmony Institute, and chief advisor to His Excellency Dr. Alfred Mutua, governor of Machakos County. It's a pleasure and honor to invite Frederick Kangete to address us. Welcome. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me now, sir?
Yes, we do.
Thank you very much. And indeed, it's a pleasure for me and a privilege to be invited to give a few remarks in this very important conference. I am the chair, as you said, of the Harmony Institute, and we are more than delighted to be part of this initiative. Briefly, at the Harmony Institute in Kenya, we are extremely busy organizing interfaith dialogues. And since in the last couple of years, like 5 years, we've managed to have dialogue with various faiths, including the Sikhs. And we are very happy to be part of this initiative. We have also been involved in social economic empowerment at the grassroots level. Our institute has been helping women with sewing machines so they can become empowered economically. We've also been traveling around the world, meeting other leaders of different faiths and trying to understand how we can build a better world. So we are very happy, and this initiative really falls within the preoccupations and concerns of the Harmony Institute. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Now, how do we interact with the Fratelli Tutti? Both in principle and in action, we are very encouraged by this message, because this message is like a roadmap for us in our work. The Pope makes it very clear by addressing various domains, various areas from economic issues, social issues, political issues, issues of international cooperation and collaboration. These issues for us create a roadmap, a very clear path of action for our activities at the Harmony Institute. When our country got independence in 1963, there were three main concerns of the government. One was to fight disease, ignorance, and poverty. Now, if you look 50 years down the line, a lot has been achieved along those lines. Most African countries are at a level of economic development that is far much better than they were at independence 50 years ago. However, as one leader said, Fethullah Gulen said, the biggest problem in Africa is disunity. So how can religious organizations, how can faiths, different faiths in the world, reflect together and really create harmony, create peace in the world? In Kenya today, our biggest threat is not hunger, it is not education, it is not poverty. Our biggest threat is lack of peace, just disunity. And I see an opportunity in this encyclical and the message that we got from the Imam and the Pope. We are seeing an opportunity for religious organizations to reflect together with government, with the academia, and look for ways of actually creating this unity that is so elusive, not only in the world, in Africa, but also in the world at large. When we look at the message also, in terms of promoting human values, the document actually creates a very clear path for us. How do we promote human dignity within our own either political system or economic systems? This is a challenge that is being addressed, but I believe that institutes like Tangaza University, Harmony Institute, our colleagues in Indonesia and across the world, we can reflect together and see how we can address this issue of human values in a very collective and organized way. So I think when ideas are proposed, like creation of an interfaith university where our young people can go and learn about other faiths, I think that's a very progressive idea, because across, people I meet invariably have no understanding of Islam. They have no understanding of Sikhism. They have no understanding of what Buddhism is. And this creates darkness. We need to bring light to this darkness by creating an institute where young people can be exposed to the holy writings. They understand them. And this can minimize conflict and also enhance our chances of creating peace and harmony across faiths. Finally, I think we also need to extend a leaf to non-believers. I've had conversations with some of them. They don't understand us, and we may want to hear their point of view because they may inform us about where we are failing and make us better believers. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity to share some ideas with you. And really, thank you so much for inviting Harmony Institute. Thank you so much.
So thank you very much for supporting this initiative and your words of welcome. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Idil Farah, the Vice Chancellor of Umma University. Dr. Idil Farah, born in Wajir County in the vast northern arid lands of Kenya, has over 27 years experience in public service and senior management levels. Between 2003 and 2014, Dr. Farah held the position of Director General of the National Museums of Kenya, an eminent and world-renowned state research and academic institution responsible for the cultural and natural heritage of Kenya through actions of preservation, research, and public education. Dr. Farah has also served as director of the Institute of Primate Research, a biomedical research institute that is one of the many components of the National Museums of Kenya. Dr. Farah has served as a membership in several national and international platforms, including the Commission for Higher Education, now Commission for University Education, for 8 years, the International Board of the Center for Heritage Development in Africa, the Kenya National Commission to UNESCO, and chaired the National Task Force to develop guidelines on the use and care for laboratory animals in research. Dr. Farah has portrayed his managerial skills by successfully steering the transformation of the National Museum of Kenya and significantly contributing to the reforms in the higher education sector in Kenya. As chairman of the University Council, Dr. Farah has overseen the smooth transition of the University of Nairobi management. So it's an honor and pleasure to invite Dr. Idol Farah, the Vice Chancellor of Umma University. Welcome, Dr. Idol Farah.
Thank you very much for the innocent, for your very, very kind remarks. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all participants. Indeed, I'm delighted and privileged to be part of this wide array and distinguished gathering. I'm extremely privileged to be part of this wide array and distinguished gathering to ventilate on a most relevant topical issue in our current troubled world. The diversity of this conference, both in space and time, is truly breathtaking, spanning 3 continents and traversing virtually all the time zones that we know. Such diversity is very, very appropriate for the theme of this conference. Umma University, ladies and gentlemen, is a young, newly accredited university located in Kajiado, about 70 kilometers southeast of the capital city, Nairobi, in Kenya. We pride ourselves as a faith-based university, founded on Islamic principles and tenets. However, in terms of faculty and in terms of students, we are open to all, regardless of religion, gender, ethnicity, or indeed race. At the heart of our fundamental principles as a university is a concept of wasata. This is an Arabic word that is extremely difficult to give an exact translation to in English. But in general terms, it points towards the concept of the middle path, the path of moderation. We are commanded in the 2nd chapter of the Holy Quran, verse 143, to be people and a nation of moderation. To quote verbatim in English, thus have we appointed you a middle nation, that you may be witnesses over mankind, and that the messenger may be a witness over yourselves. End of quote. Quran verse 2, chapter 2, verse 143. Even though what one may consider to be extremists or moderates varies according to one's religion and social customs, the middle path in the plain reading of this Quran verse and other Quranic verses is in sync with justice, is in sync with fairness, it is in sync with empathy, among other attributes. It's for this very reason that we at Umma University gladly accepted to be part of this discourse of building bridges for human solidarity in the light of Pope Francis' encyclical letter, Fratelli Tutti, or fraternity and social friendship. Distinguished participants, the propensity of some sections of humanity to extremism, to violence, to injustice, to hatred, to hubris in general, directed against their fellow human beings, based on religion, based on ethnicity, race, and culture, is extremely difficult to fathom. And this has gone on for ages, civilizations, for eternity. Some of these heartbreaking scenarios are unfolding even today, right in front of our eyes, in this digital world where information comes to you right on the second. From the Black Lives Matter movement and its attendant chaotic scenes in the heart of the home of civilization and democracy in the United States, to seeing heartbreaking children, women, and men drowning in ramshackle boats, trying to cross treacherous oceans, fleeing from their home countries in search of better lives in foreign countries. Just this week, we've been treated to the scenes at Kabul airport and people desperately trying to get out. They say that a journey of 1,000 steps begins with the first step. The first step to do something about this hubris, this chaos, this hatred, and bring back humanity to the middle path, the path of moderation, justice, and fraternity, has been taken by Pope Francis and Imam Ahmad Al-Tayyib of Al-Azhar when they penned the historic declaration of Muslim Christian on human fraternity on the 4th of February, 2019. Pope Francis has further taken and authored Fratelli Tutti, an encyclical which calls for a better, more just and peaceful world where all people and institutions should play an active role, and he subsequently calls for global solidarity and partnership. Furthermore, downstream to the signing of the human fraternity, the global Muslim scholars converged in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, and concluded with a declaration that radicalization, extremism, hatred, and racism is contrary to the teachings and tenets of Islam. This they did on the 29th of May, 2019. It is therefore incumbent upon us now to respond to this rallying call as individuals, as institutions, as states and governments, and as international bodies. As a university, we are proud to be part of the academic discourse on this novel concept of Fratelli Tutti. Let us spread this message of hope to humanity across the world. Thank you all for accepting Umma University to participate in this conference, and we assure you of our commitment to be part of the global community building activities that will successfully translate the hopeful message of Fratelli Tutti. I conclude by thanking all individuals and institutions that have made this conference possible. They have already been named, and I do not need to name them again. Thank you, and God bless all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Idil Farah, the Vice Chancellor of Umma University. Now it's my pleasure to invite Professor Kamaruddin Amin, who is representing the Minister for Religious Affairs, Yakut Cholil. Yakut Cholil, His Excellency, who in 2019 visited the Holy See and met with His Holiness Pope Francis, where he represented the JP answer to express the organization's support for the document on human fraternity. So Prof. Kamarudin Amin will be speaking on behalf of the Indonesian Minister for Religious Affairs. So welcome, Professor.
Thank you, Honorable Moderator, distinguished guests and speakers. First of all, I would kindly like to deliver or to convey the apology of the Minister of Religious Affairs for being unable to deliver his speech in person directly for something unavoidable to him and asked me to represent him. So allow me to read the full text of the Minister's speech tonight. Good day, good evening, everyone. Hopefully you and your beloved ones are in good health. Prior to starting sharing my views about the topic of the conference today, please allow me to convey the salutations greetings from various religions that are commonly expressed by us here in Indonesia. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Wei Di Tong Tian. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speakers and participants, first of all, I would like to express my appreciation and gratitude to the committee, which is co-organized by Institute for Interreligious Dialogue and Islamic Studies Tangaza University College, Nairobi, Kenya, Global Ministry, University, California, Umma University, Harmony Institute of Kenya, and State Islamic University, Sunan Kalijaga, Yogyakarta. I would love to take the credit as well as to all members, speakers, and all participants of the Global Conference on Fraternity, Ukhuwah Insaniyah, with the theme Building Bridge for Humanity, for Human Solidarity. I strongly support and warmly welcome this conference theme. It is extremely relevant and crucial to the situation in the world we live in, which is loaded of disunity, hostilities, frictions, and warfare that cause casualties. While looking forward, the conference will also contribute to certain, even small concrete actions to the world peace and social justice. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speakers and participants, as we all probably have known, Fraternity means all brothers and sisters, or Ukhuwah Insaniyah, is the third encyclical of Pope Francis, subtitled on fraternity and social friendship. This encyclical is inspired by Abu Dhabi Declaration, the document on human fraternity for world peace and living together, a joint statement signed by the Pope Francis of the Catholic Church and Sheikh Ahmed Al-Tayyib, Grand Imam Al-Azhar, on the 4th of February 2019 in Abu Dhabi, United Emirates. It was born a fraternal open discussion between Pope Francis and Grand Sheikh Tayyib, which is crucial. The encyclical put emphasis on human fraternity and solidarity and is a plea to reject wars. Moreover, it is meant to be a guide and advancing interfaith dialogue and culture of mutual respect. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speakers and participants, the President of the Republic of Indonesia, Joko Widodo, is almost all his speech keeps reminding tirelessly the importance of maintaining and nurturing our unity in diversity as well as peaceful cultural religious coexistence, in particular in our exceptionally multi-ethnic religious society. To give you a brief portrait of how diverse and heterogeneous Indonesia is. In fact, Indonesia itself as the largest archipelagic country in the world with more than 715 ethnicities and 718 traditional local languages, 6 religions under patronage of the government as they have the most followers amongst the Indonesian people: Islam, Protestantism, Catholicism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Confucianism. Aside from those 6 religions, there exists also another faith religion such as Judaism, Zoroastrianism, Shinto, Baha'ism, Sikhism, Taoism, Animism, Dynamism, and hundreds of other ancestral traditional beliefs. With total of 34 provinces, Indonesia has its own complexity of ethnicities, language, religions, and faith. Arguably, its enormous amount of diversity and its uniqueness are barely unmatched across the world. It is therefore paramount to maintain and manage harmony and peace, as the more diverse ethno-religious demographic structure of one region, the higher potential for socio-political, cultural, religious conflict. So, some acknowledge Indonesia is one of the leading sectors and examples of best practices in the world for religious moderation and interfaith harmony, a remarkably plural society. Harmony amongst the people is not only seen in certain areas. Needless to say, it is a common phenomenon that can easily be found in every corner of Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, it would be not exaggerating if I say that Fratelli Tutti or Ukhuwah Insaniya has exactly the same meaning with Indonesian cultural traditional philosophy that has been preserved and practiced centuries ago within the historiography of cultural tradition in Nusantara, Indonesia. Take this as example, tradition and philosophy of Pelagandong in Maluku, Torang Samua Basudara in Sulawesi Utara, Tongin Van Ninjit in Bangka Belitung, in Sio in Jawa Timur, and many others. All of them have similar meaning, that is, all brothers and sisters. These cultural tradition and philosophy have been echoing the message of harmony, tolerance, altruism, and peace, as well as seeking common platform. The concept of life and philosophies have been well understood, well implemented, and successfully co-managed and preserved since centuries among the society, even though the influence of foreign cultures might creep and erode the local traditional culture, but local wisdom still perpetuate. Ladies and gentlemen, the condition of the world today as consisting of conflict between the different national egoism and the world peace is still a long one. There is an urgent to open up a path to the future that will preserve peace and harmony for nations and mankind. Throughout the history of mankind, races, religions, and faiths have often been the sources of certain wars and conflict in the world. Millions of people have been exterminated, and many nations and civilizations are destroyed and extinct due to the race or religious conflict. Hence, we need to contribute something to overcome the human crisis, then start aside from what is happening before our eyes. The plurality of society cannot be denied. We need to coexist peacefully within the nation itself, as well as with other nations of the world. Multidimensional integration, cultural religious coexistence, and social peace are extremely needed in order to preserve the civilization of humankind and to establish harmonious and peaceful society, which accordingly become core factors of social economy, political, and national stability. It is undoubtedly our responsibility to making earnest effort, even a small move in each of our field of experience, in each of our skills, and even in our small powers to make our future better and make the world a better place. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, I wish we all have been working and contributing to our legacies by spreading love, care, respect, and peace for humankind. I wish you have a good work and partnership for humanity. May God help and bless our efforts. Stay healthy, stay positive, and stay spirited during the pandemic, as we believe this pandemic too shall pass on. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Professor. On behalf of the Minister for Religious Affairs from Indonesia. And what is quite amazing is how Fratelli Tutti resonates with the cultural situation of Indonesia with this beautiful word, Usania. Forgive me if I don't pronounce it well, but thank you very much for your words of welcome. Now, allow me to invite Professor Azza Karam, the Secretary General for Religions for Peace International. Professor Dr. Azza Karam serves as the Secretary General of Religions for Peace, the largest multi-religious leadership platform with 92 national and 6 regional interreligious councils. She also holds a professorship of religion and development at the Vrije University in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, of which she is a citizen. She served as a senior advisor on culture at the United Nations Population Fund and a coordinator, chair of the United Nations Interagency Task Force on Religion and Development, and founder of the Multi-Faith Advisory Council of the United Nations. In those capacities, she coordinated engagement with members of a global interfaith network for population and development, with over 600 faith-based organizations from all regions of the world, representing all religions and interreligion affiliations. She was the lead facilitator for the United Nations Strategic Learning Exchange on Religion, Development, and Diplomacy, building on a legacy of serving as a trainer cum facilitator of intercultural leadership and management in the Arab region, as well as Europe and Central Asia. Professor Karam has served in different positions in the United Nations since 2004, as well as other intergovernmental and non-governmental organizations since the early 90s, such as International IDEA, OSCE, and Religions for Peace. Simultaneously, she lectured in various academic institutions in Europe, in North America, including the United States Military Academy, West Point, Africa, and Middle East. So we are privileged and honored to welcome Professor Dr. Azza Karam to address. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you very much indeed, Father Innocent, for this extraordinarily kind introduction and very generous introduction. I am humbled and deeply grateful to the organizers for the opportunity to be together with you in this space with such distinguished men and women of learning and such valued, deeply committed enterprises and organizations. It is indeed a deep honor for me, and I wish to thank all the organizers for effectively enabling my very simple presence amongst you here today. I am particularly, of course, grateful to yourself, Father Innocent, for having me, and very, very grateful to the Global Ministry University, Harmony Institute of Kenya, the Institute for Interreligious Dialogue and Islamic Studies, the State Islamic University Sunan, Kalijaga, Yogyakarta, and the Umma University, the co-organizers of this meeting. The theme that you have selected is extremely pertinent and relevant. Indeed, His Holiness Pope Francis has gifted the world with not just one, but in fact 2 encyclicals that are extremely pertinent and provide valued guidance to all of us. I understand that the Fratelli Tutti lies at the heart and at the core of the conversation today, and I am deeply grateful to the speakers before me who have elaborated their wonderful work on and around these themes. Please allow me, for those of you who may not yet know Religions for Peace well, to mention very quickly that it was founded in 1970. It's the largest worldwide alliance of faith institutions and leaders, communities devoted to advancing common actions for peace. We have interreligious councils, each of them composed of the senior-most faith leaders formally representing the religious institutions in their respective countries, and also 6 regional interreligious councils. This is in addition to a global Women of Faith network and interfaith youth network. So, if you will, Religions for Peace is a little bit like the United Nations of religions, where United Nations has member states or governments. Religions for Peace has members, religious institutions, and representatives of faith communities from around the world. The religious or faith representation in order of alphabet cover the Baha'i, the Buddhist, Christian, Catholic, Protestant, etc., evangelical, also Hinduism, indigenous communities from around the world, Islam, Jain, Judaism, Sikh, Taoism, and Zoroastrian. In other words, it is a wide representation of religious institutions and faith leaders from across the world. Bringing me now to the second part of what I wish to just quickly share with you. Clearly, you are far more familiar with the elements of Fratelli Tutti. I wish to highlight a few that I believe Religions for Peace very deliberately tries to serve in terms of the principles enshrined and the advocacy within the Fratelli Tutti. In chapter 8 of Fratelli Tutti, there is a beautiful discussion of the value of religions in general. The different religions, based on their respect for each other and for human person as a creature, are in fact called, the human person as a creature called to be a child of the divine, are indeed affirmed as contributing significantly to building fraternity. And this is not intended in any way to be simply between the men, but fraternity and sisterhood, if you will, to defend justice in society. This is the advocacy within chapter 8, Value of Religions and Fratelli Tutti. The dialogue between the followers of different religions, we are told, does not take place simply for the sake of diplomacy, as critical as diplomacy is, or consideration or tolerance. But I believe the Bishop of India is quoted as the goal of dialogue is to establish friendship, peace, and harmony, and to share spiritual and moral values and experiences in a spirit of truth and love. End of quote. This is on page 259. Looking at the value of dialogue to establish friendship, peace, harmony, to share spiritual and moral values and experiences, we are also reminded on page 32 and 36 of the following quote. For all our hyperconnectivity, we witnessed a fragmentation that made it more difficult to resolve problems that affect us all. End of quote. This is a quote from Fratelli Tutti, page 7, especially advocated and elaborated later on that we are all saved together. Nobody is saved alone. No religious community will exist in isolation and be saved on its own. The COVID pandemic our world is currently confronting further nuances illustrate, indeed, it screams out to all of us that no one will be saved and fine on their own. We have vaccines that are made available in one part of the world and not the other. We have people who are refusing to be vaccinated. And every refusal, as entitled as each one is to their opinion, every refusal is an indictment for another person, either next door into our own homes or outside in the street as homeless or in another part of the world. We are so fundamentally interdependent and interlinked that one person affected by COVID is everyone potentially affected by COVID. We will not overcome this crisis if we exist and look at our own isolation. We will, with the grace of God, overcome this crisis that affects each and every one of us, where no one is safe at the isolation at the other. We will, by the grace of God, overcome it if we together seek to continue to follow in the precepts that are very beautifully outlined in Fratelli Tutti, and indeed that are enshrined in the holy and sacred texts and values of almost every single faith known to humankind. One such value that I wish to emphasize in the Fratelli Tutti is of global solidarity, tolerance, or even more solidarity being advocated for. Another critical value is the need for true universal human rights. Pretty much like COVID, if one person's human rights are abrogated or violated, this is an abrogation and violation of all other people's human rights. We do not exist in isolation. Our human rights framework, as we know it today, is based upon and indeed made possible. It is derived from the common values to all faith traditions around the world. If we did not have religions before, we will not have had human rights today, because human rights is that which is common in values amongst all faiths. So therefore, a respect for the universality of the human rights to every individual is a respect for the dignity that is called for in every faith tradition around the world. In this spirit, there is also an advocacy within Fratelli Tutti for the human dignity for refugees. Today, we have 80 million stateless and displaced people. Can you imagine 80 million who live with no right to a roof over their head, with no guarantee of food and basic dignity in their communities? They live no community. They have no community. They are displaced people, 80 million. Therefore, the advocacy within Fratelli Tutti confirms and affirms that which exists in all faith traditions, that we have a moral obligation of brotherhood towards each and every one of us, and that in order to realize this, we must build together. The term building together is enshrined on page 203 to pages 205 of the Fratelli Tutti. We must build together. Some of our politicians today think that they speak about build back better from COVID. They are speaking nothing new. They are articulating that which Fratelli Tutti itself has advocated for even before COVID. The COVID crisis hit, and they are affirming that which every single faith tradition has called upon us to do in global solidarity, to build together, to secure the dignity of each and every human being. To that intent, and with that purpose in mind, already 50 years ago, religious leaders from around the world came together to found Religions for Peace. The name is profound. It is about religions and faiths coming together, not only to speak as one, which today, in today's world, you must admit, when religious leaders come together to speak as one, they speak within their own traditions, they speak powerfully together. That is the call of the divine. That call, when religions come together, when religious leaders come together to speak together, powerfully together, for the welfare and the benefit and the dignity of each human being, that is the call of the divine. That is the call of mercy. And so Religions for Peace has made this the business to ensure that religious actors, distinguished, learned people such as yourself can come together to speak as one. That is the call of divine mercy. But not only to speak. Religions for Peace has been developing programs and initiatives for 50 years where religious leaders and religious institutions come to serve together. They serve their communities together. Every single religious institution has very evolved structures and ways in which it serves their communities and their believers. Imagine the power of every religious institution together, serving together. Imagine that power. That is the mission of Religions for Peace. Not only is there now, for the first time, a multi-religious humanitarian fund that has been created, to which I invite you to learn and to contribute, if possible, even contribute a commitment to work together across religious differences to serve every member of your community. But not only a global multi-religious humanitarian fund. Religions for Peace is working with every single multilateral organization and civil society organization already for the last 50 years, committed to eradication of poverty, to working to welcome the refugees and the internally displaced, no matter where they come from, no matter where they are, and to resolve conflicts together. At least half of the Religions for Peace interreligious councils were formed either to confront together as religious leaders and communities came together to mediate conflicts between the communities and governments and non-governments, or to respond together to a humanitarian crisis. This is a legacy of half a century of religious leaders and institutions coming to serve together. I would end with an invitation by Religions for Peace and a call to action. But before I do so, I would commend the objective of honoring His Holiness Pope Francis and His Holiness the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar with the degrees that has been mentioned before. I commend the colleagues who intend to do this, for indeed, these are two men who have called for the global fraternity and a friendship that is committed to, not only in words, but in actions. This is a good moment in our history, a critical moment in our human history to honor the men who do well and to do so with engaging the women in their communities. So I want to commend this objective of honorary degrees and to indicate our full support for it as Religions for Peace. I also want to commend the goal of this conference to develop an ongoing global platform, as well as centers on the ground for growing leadership and resource development to unify the human family and provide guidance about how to achieve this goal. Please allow me one such guidance. Please allow me one such guidance. Let us not replicate and duplicate and waste time in creating newer structures and formats to do the same that has been already done. Let us instead commit to working together to elevate, to scale up the efforts that are already existing on the ground. I am a practitioner of international development, ladies and gentlemen. One of the many lessons that I continue to learn is how amazingly simple it is for human beings with every good intention to keep on duplicating each other's initiatives over time, such that instead of advancing together to achieve more for more, we end up bifurcating our efforts as we replicate the very same institutions, serving the very same communities on the very same set of objectives. Let us please, I beg you, let us please not replicate and duplicate. Let us please try not to find new institutions, new initiatives, new entities. Let us harvest that which has already been invested in for many, many years. Let us harvest that which we have sown the seeds of, many of us differently, together. Let that which is novel and innovative about the work today not be the founding of new initiatives, but the harvesting, the strengthening, the consolidation, the honoring of the efforts of those who have already invested, who are already trying to work together, who are already trying to seek resources. As we harvest new initiatives, as we seek new initiatives, we divide. But as we seek to build on existing initiatives, we in fact conquer. We conquer fear, we conquer want, we conquer domination, we conquer competition, we conquer hatred. We live the principles of our basic faith tradition, to which end, as the Secretary General and the servant of Religions for Peace, I commit to you that Religions for Peace, which is actually present in Kenya and Indonesia, honorably so, thanks to the efforts of religious leaders in those two countries, I commit to ensuring that Religions for Peace stands alongside in solidarity as we build together and refrain from duplication and replication. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your time, and I commit to continuing to be your servant as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Zakaram, for your passionate appeal for working together and not reinventing the wheel, but moving together and joining that which already exists and strengthening what we have to build a world of peace. Thank you very much for that passionate appeal, asking us to come together and walk together. And this is one of the desires of this global conference, where we want to create a global movement together with all those who are already working together from an interfaith perspective to build a better humanity and build bridges. Thank you very much for your kind words and your passionate appeal for this cause. Thank you very much. And I think you have, Professor Karam, you have now introduced somehow the next speaker, who will be Dr. Samuel Kobia, who is the chair of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission here in Kenya. And they are doing a very wonderful job in multi-religious, ethnic, and cultural society such as Kenya. So allow me to introduce Reverend Dr. Samuel Kobia before I invite him to speak. Commissioner Reverend Dr. Samuel Kobia is the chairman, National Cohesion and Integration Commission. Previously, he served as a senior advisor on cohesion, peace, and conflict resolution in the Executive Office of the President and Cabinet Affairs. Dr. Kobia served as a commissioner in the Judicial Service Commission, which recruits Kenyan judges and oversights the judiciary. From 2010 to 2012, Ecumenical Special Envoy for the Sudans. From 2007 to 2018, he was the Chancellor of St. Paul University and former General of the Geneva-based World Council of General Secretary of the Geneva-based World Council of Churches. So he brings also an ecumenical perspective to this discourse, and we are happy to have him with us, bringing this ecumenical experience. He has vast experience in mediation and dialogue, and currently coordinates dialogue platforms as safe spaces for interactions between Kenyans of diverse stations and government to address pressing issues. The fruits of the dialogues include peaceful coexistence, healing and reconciliation, peaceful resolution of conflicts, and national cohesion. He holds a master's degree in urban planning, theology, and international relations from universities in Kenya, the US, and Switzerland. He's a visiting professor to Wesley College in USA and UK. He is an author of several books, including Dialogue Matters. Welcome, Dr. Samuel Kobia, the chairman of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission in Kenya. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Chair. And can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Yes, Chairman, fellow panelists, speakers, and all participants. I really want, first of all, to say how deeply thankful I am for this invitation to make some remarks at this opening session. And I had problems linking in, and now I'm only able to speak to you through my phone. My iPad is just let me down, and that is why I was able to join only very, late in joining. Let me start by again thanking you for inviting me because although I am chairman of the NCIC, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, I'm not going to speak so much as the chairman of the commission, but to share some remarks and reflections on this encyclical letter from the experience that I have had in the various ecumenical organizations you have mentioned, and of course, previously in the government of Kenya. In his encyclical letter, Fratelli Tutti, Pope Francis has gifted humanity with a religious concept, a philosophical thought, and a social idea at a time when the world is in dire need of a moral compass and spiritual guidance. It can only be a providential intervention that, as the Pope admits, the COVID-19 pandemic unexpectedly erupted as he was writing this letter. The pandemic is a stark reminder that as humanity, we are in the same boat of life. And as we know, COVID-19 is no respecter of any human beings, irrespective of race, color, creed, political persuasion, or gender. It does not need a visa to enter any country in the world. All are affected equally, and we are reduced to the application of common health protocols in mitigating the ravages of the pandemic. This signifies our mutual vulnerability and underscores the Pope's wise counsel that we are better off when we become neighbors to others, overcome our prejudices, personal interests, historic and cultural barriers. That way, we will be co-responsible in creating a society that is able to include, integrate, and lift up those who have fallen or are suffering. Pope Francis' message is relevant to all the regions of the world, as of course we have heard from various speakers representing their institutions in different parts of the world, and of course the Religions for Peace, which is a global organization. But I wish in my brief remarks to focus on Africa. Fratelli Tutti deeply resonates with the concept of Ubuntu, or Utu in Kiswahili. The Anglican Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu of South Africa explains the meaning of Ubuntu as, and I quote, "A person is a person through another person. My humanity is caught up, bound up intrinsically with yours. We can only be human together," end of quote. And Professor John Beattie from Africa, the late Professor Beattie now, puts it differently but conveys the same definition when in his now classic book, African Religions and Philosophy, published in 1969, he says, and I quote, "I am because we are, and since we are, therefore I am," end of quote. In Fratelli Tutti, which aims to promote a universal aspiration towards fraternity and social friendship, Pope Francis enriches this African concept when he emphasizes the view that, and I quote, "No one can face life in isolation. The time has truly come to dream as a single human family in which we are all brothers and sisters," end of quote. The Ubuntu values include community, dignity, acceptance, sharing, co-responsibility, humanness, social justice, group solidarity, compassion, etc., etc. These values find ready acceptance in the essential message of Fratelli Tutti. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, the second point I wish to pick up from Fratelli Tutti is that of dignity as a birthright which cannot be denied to anyone. The All Africa Conference of Churches has, in the last 1 decade, ran a program which promotes the idea that the dignity of a people can be violated, but cannot be denied. Indeed, the dignity of the African people was violated by slavery, colonialism, apartheid, and all forms of exploitation and oppression. Through its program, the AACC calls upon and facilitates the churches of Africa to contribute to the initiatives of reaffirming the dignity of the African people. To the extent that oppression and exploitation produce victims and perpetrators, the need for healing and reconciliation is inevitable. And here, the embrace of Ubuntu and Fratelli Tutti will provide the guidance needed in understanding how to heal the wounds of historic as well as more recent conflicts and deepen the awareness of the sanctity of the human heart. Here, reconciliation will be achieved when repentance is offered by the perpetrator and accepted by the victim, thereby reaching the understanding of what it takes to put the past at rest after suffering the indignities in our relationships. Still, for the new relationship to be meaningful, justice must be done and be seen to be done. And in this regard, Pope Francis' message is very clear, and I quote, "Forgiveness does not mean impunity, but rather justice and remembrance, because to forgive does not mean to forget, but to renounce the destructive power of evil and the desire to revenge," end of quote. My third point is that of understanding the world as the household of humanity in which there is no exclusion and discrimination. This is the concept of oikomene, which is the logo of the World Council of Churches in which I served, as you heard, as the household which is governed by family values of care, affection, charity, forgiveness, compassion, equity, etc. It is within the family that each member is respected and valued because, as Pope Francis clearly emphasizes, and I quote, "Each of us can learn something from others. No one is useless and no one is expendable." It is also when we consider ourselves as brothers and sisters of one household that the spiritual stature of a person's life is measured by love, which always takes the first place and leads us to seek better for the other, far from selfishness, end of quote. The Pope continues to underline the fact that the sense of solidarity and fraternity begin within the family, which are to be safeguarded and respected in their primary and vital mission of education. The African traditional understanding of the household of humanity is defined by the concept of communitarian ethic, which emphasizes the connection between the individual and the community. Its overriding philosophy is based upon the belief that a person's social identity and personality are largely molded by community relationships, with a smaller degree of developing being placed on individualism. But individualism and self-interest are fast eroding the centrality of the communitarian ethic as the guiding principle of life and relationships within African social settings. That is compounded by what the Pope refers to as the market logic based on the culture of waste and all other social vices. To salvage the value of social life within the communitarian ethic, Africans must consider putting less emphasis on social contract, which is generated by self-interest, and put greater emphasis on covenant, in which two or more individuals, each respecting the dignity and the integrity of the other, come together on a bond of love and trust to share their interests. By pledging their faithfulness to each other, to do together what neither can achieve alone. Unlike contracts, which are entered into for the sake of advantage, covenants are moral commitments sustained by loyalty and fidelity when they are, or sometimes they are, or even sacrifice. In such a moral trajectory, Africans will be greatly inspired and encouraged by the tenets of Fratelli Tutti. In conclusion, I wish to underline the significance of building bridges of fraternal affection. Fratelli Tutti is itself a bridge that connects the peoples of the world, each coming from their own perspective to share their life experiences through their reflections on the message of Pope Francis in his encyclical letter, Fratelli Tutti. By sharing life with life, each human being will benefit deeply from the richness of our diversity. Yes, we each are different one from the other, but we belong to one human family, each created in the image of God, the Creator, and endowed with dignity as a birthright, which is inviolable. Thank you very much for listening to me and for giving me the opportunity to share. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samuel Kobia. And thank you for linking the concept of Fratelli Tutti with the African Ubuntu spirituality and philosophy. There is a lot more to learn from the African perspective on how to live the spirituality of Fratelli Tutti. Now, allow me to invite Monsignor Lucio Sembrano from the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue. And we are very pleased to have you, Monsignor. And we acknowledge that we have received a blessing from His Eminence, the Cardinal Prefect, Ayuso, blessing this conference. I have the message. The message will be circulated to all the members who are present here in this conference. Monsignor Lucio Sembrano was born in Napoli, southern Italy, in 1959. He studied foreign languages and international law at Naples University and got a degree in 1981. He studied theology and biblical exegesis in Naples at the Pontifical Faculty of Theology of Southern Italy. He studied in Jerusalem at École Biblique et Archéologie Française and Rome at the Pontifical Biblical Institute. He was ordained a Catholic priest in 1987, got a doctorate in Bible theology, biblical theology in 1995, served as a parish priest in the Archdiocese of Sorrento, Castellammare di Stabia. Then he was called to serve in the foreign section of the Holy See, Secretariat of State, and in the Vatican Embassy in Conakry in Guinea. Since 2009, he is serving in the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue in Rome. He is the editor of the review of the Dicastery Pro Dialogo. He also teaches biblical exegesis and interreligious dialogue in Rome and in the Pontifical Faculty of Theology of Southern Italy in Naples. Monsignor, we are very humbled and privileged to have you at this global opening of the conference on Fratelli Tutti. Welcome.
Thanks a lot, Father Innocent, for your introduction. I want to greet each and everyone who, on behalf of Cardinal Ayuso, the President of the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue, who also sent you a message, as you mentioned. Now, I would like to share a small summary that I sent on the chat, so each of you can open it on his computer to have an idea of what I'm saying. I will not be long because we have been listening already so much. An introduction to explain how Pope Francis is doing something new, connecting dialogue and social ethics, and then explaining what are the sources of inspiration of Fratelli Tutti. Here too, already some has been already said, the social teachings of the Catholic Church. This is what I'm going to stress, but also biblical foundation, a Franciscan foundation, then his experience of Catholic-Muslim dialogue, and Ubuntu, as already Dr. Kobia was telling us. So I will enter in the topic concerning this new link between dialogue and ethics. We know that starting with Leo XIII, already in 1891, the Catholic Church was paying attention to the new society, to evolution of society. But all the most recent pontiffs, starting with John XXIII, and then Paul VI, and Pope John Paul and Benedict XVI, they all underlined the need to engage for the authentic development of every person and of all humanity. Actually, what Pope Francis did, first with Laudato Si in 2015, and then with Fratelli Tutti last year, Francis wanted to include in the list of social teachings the ethical concern for the environment and interreligious dialogue. This is something new. What is the consequence of this connection between dialogue and fraternity? This means that the ministry of dialogue must be pursued in accordance with basic principles of the social teachings as guidelines. We know that these principles include the dignity of the human person, solidarity, subsidiarity, the promotion of common good, and integral human development. In bringing the ministry of dialogue under the guidance of the Church's social teaching, Pope Francis is also highlighting the political consequences of interreligious dialogue. For instance, a dialogue fraternity among Catholics and Muslims about concrete needs of the people will certainly have political consequences in any country that go beyond the two religious communities. So we can also say that dialogue of fraternity is a form of the dialogue of action. In 1991, the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue produced a document entitled Dialogue and Proclamations, where many forms of dialogue were mentioned. There was dialogue of action. Christians and their dialogue partners collaborate for the integral development and liberation of people. So integral development is a term taken from Catholic social teachings. This means that the ultimate good of each person is not at odds with the ultimate good of the community. Integral development and liberations, for Catholics at least, also require the defense of human rights and the pursuit of justice, all in all, therefore, Pope Francis' dialogue of fraternity is a form of dialogue of action. Now, I will focus more on fraternity. The term fraternity is Pope Francis' pastoral appropriation of the more technical principle of solidarity that was already found in the social teachings of the Catholic Church, and in particular in Sollicitudo Rei Socialis, which was Pope John Paul II social encyclical. John Paul used to speak about the virtue of solidarity as a moral response to the growing interdependence of peoples, elevating the fact of our interdependence to a moral plane. Though not completely abandoning John Paul's language, Pope Francis calls to form a community composed of brothers and sisters. This is what he calls the vocation of fraternity. Now, what are the foundation of this fraternity according to Pope Francis? Let us examine the biblical foundation of fraternity. He speaks about Cain and Abel in his 2014 message for the World Day of Peace. As we know from the narration in the book of Genesis, Cain and Abel were children of Adam and Eve. Cain could not stand Abel. He killed him out of envy, and in so doing committed the first murder of the story that was also a fratricide. Cain's murder of Abel bears tragic witness to his radical rejection of their vocation to be brothers. They had same origin, same nature, same dignity as their parents Adam and Eve, were created in the image and likeness of God. Fraternity embraces variety and differences between brothers and sisters, even though they are linked by birth and are of the same nature and dignity. And then the second foundation that is explicitly mentioned in chapter 2 of Fratelli Tutti is the parable of Good Samaritan. Francis proposes a new path toward a culture of fraternity founded on encounter of mercy. Already Dr. Azakaran spoke about this. Francis underscores the responsibility of love for others. Such love builds a universal fraternity beyond considerations of its recipient's status, gender, origin, or location. But maybe more interesting, because it is new for all of us, is to understand where Pope Francis took the Franciscan view of fraternity. The Latin term fraternitas does not correspond to an exclusively masculine concept referring to the bond among brothers or brotherhood as it is in English. At St. Francis' time, whenever the Franciscan friars referred to their local communities of men religious, they used the term fraternity. But this term is an inclusive one, used by the secular Franciscan order in reference to local communities or associations of women, men, who have professed to live according to the Franciscan rule in their respective lay contexts. The reason why St. Francis preferred the title brother is simple. It truly meant that he saw himself as inherently related to all women, men, and even non-human creatures as part of God's one family or creation. Fraternity in this sense is more expansive and has to do with the kind of relationship one has with another. Pope Francis picks up on this Franciscan logic of fraternity in the 3rd chapter of Fratelli Tutti. He critiques societal relationships determined by affinity, preferences, status, or any other feature, and argues for a more fundamental concept of human relationship, fraternity. Fraternity is born not only of climate or respect for individual liberties, fraternity necessarily calls for something greater, which in turn enhances freedom and equality. And Francis instructed his followers to walk in the footprints of our Lord Jesus Christ. Living like Jesus means prioritizing relationship above all else. It means caring for those in need, regardless of their identity or whatever affiliations they might have. For Pope Francis, this is not something reserved for Franciscan friars or sisters, but also for all human beings who are fundamentally interdependent and connected to one another. How we think of ourselves in relationship to others ought to be governed by this principle of our a priori interrelatedness as sisters and brothers, and the way we form our worldviews, make decisions, engage in the public square, and interact with one another at all levels should be grounded in our fraternities with all. The third foundation of fraternity is in Catholic-Muslim dialogue. Pope Francis has visited many Muslim-majority countries, met with Muslim families and leaders, spoken prophetically of the need for Catholics to treat Muslims, especially migrants, with respect, and performed meaningful gestures expressing the Church's esteem for Muslims, already stated in Nostra Aetate Declaration of Vatican Council II at number 3. Despite the fact that Fratelli Tutti never mentions the words Islam or Muslims, Pope Francis' personal experiences of dialogue frame and inspire this beautiful encyclical letter. Some before me already told that it took inspiration from the joint document on human fraternity for world peace and living together that he wrote and signed together with Grand Imam Ahmad al-Tayyab, the head of the well-known Al-Azhar Islamic University and Mosque in Egypt. Also, at the end of the encyclical, Pope Francis mentions Blaise Charles de Foucault, who lived and died among Muslims in North Africa in the 20th century. Whereas at the beginning of the document, he draws attention to a lesser known episode from Sir Francis' life. When Christian and Muslim armies were fighting in Egypt in 2019, at the time of the Crusaders, St. Francis went to the camp of the Muslim Sultan Al-Malik Al-Kamil in a bid to make peace. The Pope calls it an extraordinary encounter, writing that St. Francis did not wage a war of words aimed at imposing doctrines. He simply spread the love of God. Though Francis may have come with the goal to convert the Sultan, we did not know. He did not succeed. And his later writings show him committed to a different interreligious approach, not trying to convert Muslims through argumentation and denunciation, but rather living alongside them in a spirit of loving presence, hospitality, and humble service. Christians should be open about their identity and faith, St. Francis said, and can witness to the message of the gospel when they discern it pleases God. Both for Pope Francis and for St. Francis, it seems, one's fidelity to the Lord is not simply measured by the doctrines we profess, but rather how we love others. Love is the ultimate standard. When we love others as siblings in the human family, God is there. And then Ubuntu, fraternity and dialogue, is one more source of inspiration, because Pope Francis credits South African Anglican Bishop Desmond Tutu as an inspiration for his encyclical. We know that Tutu is the main proponent of Ubuntu, an African humanist philosophy based on culture of sharing, openness, mutual dependence, dialogue, and interpersonal encounter. Dr. Samuel Kobe already spoke about that. But in Bantu languages, Umuntu, Ngumuntu, Ngabantu means a person is a person through other persons, or I am because we are. In Fratelli Tutti, we find an equivalent. Each of us is fully a person when we are part of a people. At the same time, there are no peoples without respect for the individuality of each person. In other words, we are brothers and sisters all. Universal fraternity entails suffering, requires time to forge a new social bond of solidarity that tends the vulnerability and fragility of others. Francis likened this community to a polyhedral reality composed not of isolated monads, but as a family that is stronger than the sum of small individual members. This reality exemplifies Ubuntu par excellence, because it is cemented by an inclusive social love that transcends narrow barrier, interests, and prejudices. Ubuntu prioritizes forgiveness as reconciliation. Francis agrees. Social friendship values forgiveness and reconciliation, not as mechanisms for forgetting or condoning injustice and oppression, but as means of resolving conflict through dialogue. As Tutu says, the pursuit of justice has no future without forgiveness. If my neighbor's house is on fire, I cannot sleep peacefully, says another African proverb. In the spirit of Ubuntu, genuine fraternity avoids local narcissism that constricts the mind and heart. Authentic fraternity creates a family of nations based on hospitality and gratuitousness. It recognizes the rights of all people, communities, and groups in private and social spheres. As a conclusion, we can say that true fraternity leaves no one behind. If I am because we are, then true fraternity leaves no one behind, because we are saved together and are responsible for the life of all. As gospel-inspired virtues, fraternity and social friendship are antitheses of pathologies of politics like populism, nationalism, and neoliberalism. Unlike these deleterious specimens of politics that deny the very meaning of people, which is open-ended, the culture of encounter gives priority to multilateralism over bilateralism. I wish to conclude quoting Francis' call to action. We know that God will ask each of us, what did you do for your brother? The globalization of indifference, which today burdens the lives of so many of our brothers and sisters, requires all of us to forge a new worldwide solidarity and fraternity capable of giving them new hope and helping them to advance with courage amid the problems of our time and new horizons which they disclose and which God places in our hands. That was a quotation of Pope Francis' message for the World Day of Peace 2015. This is the path that Fratelli Tutti is encouraging all human beings to walk to build a united and fraternal world community. Beginning with the pandemic and including the ecological challenge of preserving our natural resources and the quality of the environment in which we live, we are faced with the choice between models of life discarding people and things on one side, and on the other side, an inclusive model that values creatures, respecting diversity and acknowledging the part that each has to play in confronting the problems that lie ahead. Thank you for your kind attention.
Sorry.
So, thank you very much, Monsignor Sembrano, for this deep insight into the document of Fratelli Tutti and where the idea of Fratelli Tutti comes from. When the time will come, we shall try to see how we can approach your office and see how we can honor the promise that the State University of Yogyakarta has made to honor His Holiness Pope Francis and the Grand Imam Al-Tayyib of Al-Azhar University. Thank you very much, Monsignor Lucho. We know that time in Indonesia is also going towards 11 o'clock in the night. And if you allow me, I will request Alisa Wahid maybe to give us 5 minutes of address. And then we continue with Dr. Shomali and Patrick Ryan and Dr. Sultan. Thank you very much. Alisa Wahid, welcome. Alisa Wahid. She's muted. Alisa. Then we can take Dr. Shomali, and once Alisa comes in, we shall allow her to address the conference. Dr. Shomali Hujat al-Islam Muhammad Shomali is a graduate of the Islamic seminaries of Qom in Iran. He is also the founding director of the Risalat International Institute, which is devoted to Islamic curriculum development and educational training, among other initiatives. Dr. Shomali is the chief editor of 2 journals, Message of Takalain, a quarterly journal of Islamic studies, and Spiritual Quest, a biannual journal of ethics and spirituality. His interest and participation in interfaith dialogue over the past 20 years led him to share panels with key figures in the US, Canada, Italy, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, Greece, Sweden, France, Poland, Kazakhstan, Georgia, and the Philippines. So welcome, Dr. Shomali, to address the conference. Welcome.
Thank you very much. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, I am very grateful to God for giving this blessing to me to be with you and share some of my thoughts about the significance of the encyclical letter Fratelli Tutti. And I would like also to thank Tangaza University and all the co-organizers for taking this initiative to bring light on this important encyclical letter and also the joint statement of human fraternity. And it's very important that we work on this and do not let these documents, very important documents, remain just as, documents for researchers or, for religious organizations. We should bring them to grassroots level as well. So thank you very much for this initiative and for inviting me. In 2017, in September 2017, when we had the 8th round of Catholic Shia dialogue in Nairobi, we had very good programs, 2-day programs with Tangaza University under the title of Unity of God and Unity in God. And thanks to God, we were already working with the same spirit of these 2 important documents. And I am very grateful for the brotherhood that exists between us and our brothers in Tangaza University. As we know, as a result of many months of friendship and discussion between some people on behalf of the Pope and the Sheikh of Al-Azhar, the document on human fraternity was signed on the 4th February 2019. When you read the document, it's very comprehensive, and to put together such document and be accepted by both traditions certainly demanded great work plus trust, mutual trust. So when it was published, I was very happy, and as a Shia Muslim, I thought that I should do my best also to show that this is not just between the leader of the Catholic Church and one of the leading centers of Islamic studies in the Muslim world. It is something that all Muslims and all Christians should welcome, plus people of other faith and no faith. And then I published something, a special issue of Islamo-Christiana, which is published by PISA, about the Shia perspective on this statement. And then we had some joint events organized in the UK with the Catholic Bishop Conference of Scotland in Glasgow. And we had also planned something for this year, but unfortunately because of COVID, we had to do it only online. And then when the Pope visited Iraq this year in March, it brought new light, new energy. And when he met Grand Ayatollah Sistani, it was a sign of God helping our leaders to come together. First, when I heard, it was, like a dream for me. And I kept, praying and asking people to pray that nothing would stop last minute security issues or COVID, etc. And thanks to God, that meeting also took place. So between Muslims and Christians, many things have happened in the last 2 years. But also when the Pope issued the encyclical letter, Fratelli Tutti, on the 3rd October 2020, I was extra happy. Why? Not only because of the document itself, which is a great document and highlights many issues that we as humanity today face, but also because I realized that what was signed by the Pope and the Sheikh of Al-Azhar was not something just on the margin. This is actually very much making the esprit of the Catholic Church now. So if it was first signed between two religious leaders of Islam and Christianity, it was not just for the sake of interreligious relations or a kind of diplomatic. As it is said in the letter, the Pope says it was not mere diplomatic gesture, but a reflection both of a dialogue and common commitment. So I was very happy that the Catholic Church is now wholeheartedly working on this universal fraternity. And I think Muslims, Jews, and all people also should do the same and are maybe doing the same. But we have to work hard individually in our own tradition and also together. Unfortunately, although brotherhood among human beings must be one of the most obvious things when we have the same creator and we are from the same father and mother, Adam and Eve. So our brotherhood and sisterhood must be the most obvious thing. But unfortunately, we have to say that now, after so many centuries, we have to remind ourselves that we are brothers and sisters. Unfortunately, we have gone so far away from God's plan for our unity and being one family that now we need to celebrate that we are talking about universal fraternity. I'm not underestimating this, but I'm saying how far we have gone, that now we need to remind ourselves of this. Alas, unfortunately, even inside our traditions, because of current culture of individualism, we see that even blood brothers and sisters, even parents and children, even husbands and wives, have problems. Unfortunately, the current today is not towards family. The current is not in favor of brotherhood. Plus, we have been kept separate as communities. So now we have to work hard and maybe against the current, but with the wind of God, with the wind of Holy Spirit, to bring back humanity to really being part of one family and working within their own capacity, within their own traditions, for the betterment of all humanity. I cannot think of God endorsing or recommending us to isolate ourselves or to divide humanity. Certainly, God wants us to be together, wants us to appreciate the great commonalities that we have. So, if we manage to keep this spirit of brotherhood and address together with love, with mutual understanding and trust, so many problems that we have today in the world. For example, some of the problems which are listed in the statement, joint statement: poverty, social injustice, discrimination, inequality, arms race, corruption, moral decline, distance from religious values. Even some of the most fundamental values are being undermined, and even, unfortunately, those who are against our common religious values want us sometimes also to sanction them. Not only they don't give us freedom, they want us also to sanction what form of things they want to promote. Terrorism, individualism, weakening of family, all the problems that we have today in the world. And I think despite all the problems, COVID taught us that we are one family. No matter where you live in the world, no matter what type of facilities and health services you have, you die the same, you become ill the same. And there is no way that in the long term you can isolate yourself. If we win COVID, we win together. If we lose, we will lose together. These days, what we see in Afghanistan is another sign that how much we need to work together, how much we need to bring all different fractions of human society into one table. Otherwise, no army in the world can solve the problem. It takes time that those who take weapons, to understand this. But unfortunately, I think we have had enough of history to realize that violence is not going to help, no matter who or how weapons are used and for which purpose and in whose name this is used. So I am very much grateful to God for inspiring Pope Francis and Imam of Al-Azhar and all people of goodwill in Christian world, in Muslim world, outside that in the last 2 years since signing of declaration in Abu Dhabi, they have been working on promoting this culture of brotherhood. And I'm also very grateful that the Catholic Church has put this in the heart of its current teaching for all religious people, religious orders, priests, and all the church institutions. I pray to God the Almighty that we would be together able to understand the will of God from us and what we can do together in meeting his expectations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shomali. We need, unfortunately, we need to be reminded that we are all brothers. The fact that you had, we need to come together and that violence will never solve problems. Okay. Yeah? Okay. So I'm being told by the technical teams that for the speakers who are coming, Alisa Wahid, Patrick Ryan, and lastly, Dr. Sultan, that we may give each 5 minutes to address, so because of the time, and it shows how interesting and important this topic is. So, so thank you very much for reminding us, Hudai. So I'd like to invite Alisa Wahid. Welcome. I know that it's late now in Indonesia, but thank you for staying up to this time. Okay, welcome, Alisa Wahid.
Thank you, Father Innocent, and I'm really sorry that I missed the invitation before because I had to go back. Actually, I'm still working. I had to go back into the meeting room to tell them that I would be a little later than I expected. Okay. Greetings from Jakarta to you all, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. First of all, allow me, Father Innocent, to express my gratefulness to the organizers of this conference for inviting me to share my thoughts with you, together with other esteemed leaders here. Thank you, all the organizers, the Institute for Interreligious Dialogue and Islamic Studies, Tangaza University College, Global Ministry University in California, Umma University, Harmony Institute of Kenya, and State Islamic University, Sunan Kalijaga, Yogyakarta. It has been a delight for me to learn from the previous speakers about building bridges for human solidarity in light of Pope Francis' an encyclical letter, Fratelli Tutti, a message that has come timely because globalization has bring more connections to people from all corners of the world, but also created tensions between groups of people fearing to lose powers and dominations over lands and over people. And I'm glad that Dr. Idil Farah mentioned about religious moderation, as actually I am at this very moment is leading a workshop on strengthening religious moderation for the Ministry of Religious Affairs, because religious moderation has been chosen by President Joko Widodo's government as one of Indonesian national priorities in our midterm development plan. So, I would like to start with taking a quote from my personal inspirations and the inspiration for millions of people in Indonesia. President Abdurrahman Wahid, Mr. Al-Makin already mentioned his name before. President Wahid said that the deep problem is that people use religion wrongly in pursuit of victory and triumph. This sad fact then leads to conflict with people who have different beliefs. It is understandable that religions are prone to be used as tools of and for power. One wise man said, there are only 3 things that can move human beyond his or her human capacity: God, love, and freedom. For freedom and independence, people are willing to sacrifice their lives. They would also sacrifice themselves for love, but none is more powerful than sacrificing their lives for God. But we can also bring freedom and love to build bridges for the human solidarity in service of God. We see this clearly within these pandemics, especially in Indonesia. The faith communities have joined forces to be first responders, capitalizing the characteristics of religious groups and reaching out especially to the most vulnerable people. Father Innocent, let me, if I may, can I share some pictures with all the participants here?
Yes, you can.
Can I be able to?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. These are all the characteristic of faith-based organization. The communality, a strong sense of bonding between adherents of the same faith. And then the value-centered organization, the value-centered characteristic of the organization. Humanity, compassion, hard work, collaborations are all in abundance in faith-based organizations. We also have close relationship between leaders and congregations. And faith-based organizations usually have a massive and systematic structure, reaching out to the grassroots level, and also providing services and programs that has been established before. So when the pandemic comes, then it's easy for us to capitalize on those characteristics. Instead of fighting each other, we are working together, resource raising across faith communities, collecting data of the most vulnerable families and people, gathering volunteers from within the faith-based organization to serve and deliver basic necessities to all vulnerable people, opening access to private sectors and local governments, and consolidating programs and services. Those are all made possible by the characteristic of interfaith cooperations. And from this, we can learn a message of solidarity and hope. That is also the core message of Fratelli Tutti. We are creating a container of solidarity across faith communities. We are caring for the most vulnerable, regardless of social divides. We are consolidating resources and programs and services, and we serve those more marginalized, reaching out to those most underserved. And we can see from this that Fratelli Tutti is a living value, and it is in resonance with paradigm of Ukhuwah from Nahdlatul Ulama. I come from Nahdlatul Ulama. This is the biggest Muslim organization in Indonesia with around 60 million adult members. And of course, with the children, it's about 80 million. In Nahdlatul Ulama, we are taught that in quest of Islam Rahmatan lil Alamin, Islam as the blessings for the universe, Muslim should nurture Ukhuwah Islamiyah or Muslim solidarity, Ukhuwah Watoniyah, solidarity across citizens of one nation, and Ukhuwah Insaniyah, human solidarity, that is Fratelli Tutti. From Fratelli Tutti and the trilogy of Ukhuwah, we are reminded again that Ukhuwah or Fratelli Tutti is indeed a universal values that we all share. We are immensely grateful that Pope Francis take the leadership to strengthen these fundamental values. And I will end with another of President Wahid's quote. President Wahid said, "The true role of religion is indeed to awaken human to the fact that he or she is part of the human race and the universe." Thank you for allowing me to share my experiences with you. And I wish all of us success in building bridges across human solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa Wahid, especially for this visualization of the document, kind of a synthesis of the document Fratelli Tutti. So thank you very much and wish you best in your experience. Now let me go to California and call upon Father Patrick Ryan. So please welcome. Father Patrick Ryan. Unmute yourself, yeah.
First of all, I'm in New York, not California.
Oh, you're in California, how? So you moved from New York to, you're in New York, yes, yeah, please. welcome, Father Patrick, yeah.
I'm freezing here in my air-conditioned office. Welcome to all of you, but I'm reflecting on the many things today, and I'm very touched by many of the statements about Fratelli Tutti, and I'll be saying something about it in my main talk later today. But what I wanted to mention today is depending how you count at the beginning of the Sunni Muslim year, we're in the first month of the Sunni Muslim year of Muharram, and it's today is probably the 10th of Muharram in much of the Sunni world. I think it's not in the Shiite world because their calendar is somewhat different. But 10th of Muharram is in the Shiite world is a day of great mourning for Hussein. And in the Sunni world, it's not celebrated very much, although it is in Morocco and Algeria and Northwestern Africa generally, where it is a day commemorating Moses crossing the Red Sea. So it is with the people. So it's a day of joy and celebration, especially connected with eating certain dates and fruits and things like that, dates and walnuts and so forth. And also spewing people with water as for fun, because it's commemorating the passing through the sea. So it's a wonderful day in both traditions. I have lived in the Muslim world for a long time, and I'll be talking more about that in my main talk. But what I'm most struck by is the sense of brotherhood, ikhuwa, with my Muslim friends, and especially my former students in Africa. I taught for a long time in Africa, and I was 26 years in West Africa, and 15 of those years were in Ghana and 11 in Nigeria. I had many Muslim friends, and I amazed one of them by giving him a translation of a prayer he knew through the fraternity or the tariqa that he belonged to, which was for the Tijaniya, because he recited the blessing of the Tijaniya, but he had never seen it translated. So I provided them with a translation of it. And I found, generally speaking, Christian-Muslim relations on the ground are often much better than they are sometimes in theory. And I've learned a great deal. I think I learned more in Africa than I learned in my doctoral studies of what Islam is all about and what Africa is all about. Africa has made me who I am, and Islam is very much part of that. Islam and Christianity in Africa together, but also the traditional faiths of the African people as well. So I'm very delighted to be with this group. I don't want it to, because we're a little behind time. I don't want to spend much time now, but I want to thank everyone for participating in this, and especially for the great honor you are paying to Pope Francis. He is a Jesuit who became a Pope, and somebody has asked me, will there be another Jesuit Pope? I said, after another 450 years, maybe there will be, but we're happy with the one we have right now. And greetings to Father Innocent and all those in Nairobi. I have taught for a little while at Nairobi. I was supposed to join the faculty permanently in Hekima College, but that came to naught because of the Jesuit who was murdered in Ghana, and I had to replace him. So I did spend a few months in Hekima, and I know where Tangaza is. But I want to greet all those who are participating and wish those who are celebrating various feasts today to a good feast and a good day. So we continue our discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Patrick Ryan, and especially reminding us about the Muslim, calendar. And today is a feast of joy and so on. So we are in solidarity with our brothers and sisters, the Muslims, as they are in their new New Year calendar, and some of these activities and feasts are going on. So we are together and we are praying with them. So we are sorry because of the time, but we are almost at the end. And allow me now to invite the last speaker for today, and that is